Um, so yeah, hi, welcome. This is our August build guide. We kind of skipped July uh,
Whoops.
for
We did
obvious
skip July.
reasons. I mean,
It makes
Mark
sense.
Mark
Yeah.
moved across the country about what
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks ago,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
right? And so he's in a temporary location right now. He's selling his house and closing on a new house all at the same time.
Yeah, and if you've
Um,
never done that, it's a lot
yeah.
of fun.
So that's stressful when you're like within, like you're living in one house, but being across the country and you've got your wife at home. It's another thing. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
just a
it's
couple more days and you're done, bud.
yep, less than 10. And
You
then
get to
we
drive all over the place.
yeah, while everyone's enjoying PAX, I get to go drive across the country for 4 days with three
Rip.
dogs in tow. But
That'll be an adventure. That'll be fun.
speaking of Rip, Hexadecimal is also out tonight because
Mm-hmm.
he's just not feeling good. I don't know. So I
Yeah.
guess we need to know, but he's not here.
Dick Rocks R.I.P.
Yeah.
So
But I guess we can jump into the build guides. So we have the KBMOD build guides for not July, August 2015.
yep.
And Bob,
Some-
you kick us off since you did these two.
Some big changes to format this
Hang
month,
on
people.
one sec.
Oh, no,
Some
they already
big
see it.
changes to
They
format.
already see it. It's spoiled.
Rip a dip. Did Bob mute himself?
I did because I was
Okay.
typing.
All
I was
right.
typing.
Hmm.
All
Oh
right.
my goodness.
So for the starter builds, because these are becoming impossible right now. I did a starter A and a starter B, and we're going to explain why to start before we even get into it. So,
Yes.
starter A, this heavily favors games that are single threaded. You can see that's that dual core Pentium G3258, which I have one, and it overclocks like a champ. Like mine's running at 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
And so in games that are single threaded, like say Shadow of Mordor, it's a pretty good example of that. Like really high end graphics, if you've got the GPU to push it, but it's on a single thread, runs perfectly fine. Something like GTA 5, not so much.
No.
The most recent patch actually made it okay. It made it playable. Before it was like GTA 5 Slideshow Edition.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason we decided to do this was that we're in this weird phase right now between DX11 and DX12. Like DX12 stuff is on, virtually on the cusp here. So I wanted to take, what I would buy right at this exact moment if I were going to favor DX11 games. That would be the starter A, right? So I've got dual core G3258. We've got a Hyper 212 to keep that cool because that chip gets really hot really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a Gigabyte GA Z97 HD3 board. It's a pretty solid board on a good deal right now. G-Skill Aegis RAM, Western Digital, 1 terabyte drive. That is the Blue series. It's still 7,200 RPM. It sells a pretty good cache size. But we did squeeze a GTX 960 into this build, as opposed to, I think last month we had an R9 280 in it.
Sounds
Yeah.
right.
And then this also has slightly better case than last time. This is the Antec 1, which I think is a pretty good case
I
for 30
love
bucks.
that case. I
Yeah.
had the predecessor to that case. And besides obviously it's not as big as it's a mid tower, it's not a full tower, but that is like the one disadvantage of that case. It is so full featured for that build.
And it's only
Like,
$30.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a good deal. And then there's that tried and true EVGA 430 watt. It's an 80 plus. It's not 80 plus bronze, but it'll do. So I like this build, particularly for DX11 titles. Like I said, it's going to really do well, especially if you're like into CS:GO or Dota, League of Legends, that kind of stuff. You might run into a couple of games like AAA titles that are really heavily optimized for multi-threading.
Yeah.
And right, and it might be problematic. And again, in DX12, actually just read an article earlier today from PC World where they were kind of taking a look at DX12 performance, and clock speed didn't really seem to matter too much. It was more about having as many cores available, not threads, but cores, that really made the difference. So I can link that into chat for those who are interested. You can read it on your own leisure time.
Taurus, thank you for subscribing. Yeah,
Now,
shout 'em out.
the reason that this article actually is part of the reason that we've got a starter B, right? So let's move on to starter B.
We haven't done this before. For those that are
Yeah.
new, we have not done 2 builds for 1 price point.
And I'm sure that Barn Door is going to be pissed about this.
There you go.
But again, this is because we're in a really weird time right now. I mean, like, so we're in that transition from Haswell to Skylake for one. We're in that transition from Win 8 1 to Win 10, DX11 to DX12. So the starter B gets you 2 more cores, admittedly on an AMD chip. Couldn't get you into i5 territory for this price, and I actually couldn't even squeeze an i3 into the $500 build, and that's why you saw that G3258.
Yeah.
So this is an FX 4300. It is a 95-watt processor. You have to have decent cooling for it. So again, we went with the Hyper 212. This is on another Gigabyte board that I'm not terribly familiar with, but I know that the 970 chipset's pretty basic, but it'll give you some overclocking. It'll also give you enough SATA ports to handle basic storage requirements. Like, we're not talking multiple RAID arrays or anything like that. But if you've got like an SSD or in this case a single, actually I went with a hybrid drive in this one. Forgot about that. This is
okay. That's a first too.
Yeah, I think we've done that.
So I put that in there because I was looking for a little bit more performance boost out of this one because I was switching to AMD, and that was on a pretty good deal. So that's $70 for a 1 terabyte drive. It's got a 64 meg cache and then an 8 gig SSD. And so they're kind of in like this all on board RAID, so to speak. So your most recently accessed stuff will be in that 8 gig cache. And as you can see, all AMD in this build. So this has got a power color Radeon R9 285 that's on sale. Now, I think last month we had an R9 280 in the $500 build.
Yeah, we've used that multiple times.
Yeah, it's a good card. Another thing that I hadn't mentioned yet was that we're also in a transition phase from the AMD standpoint, going from the 200 series, the R9 200 series, to the R9 300 series. Mm-hmm. So all of the sales on the 200 series cards have pretty much evaporated, and this R9 285 is the last one that I could find.
Yeah, we're just in a weird time. It's not really a good time to buy.
Yeah, in general. Yeah.
Yep. So this is kind of weird territory for us, but we did want to do the build guides, make sure you guys have those handy. In general, I would probably recommend that you wait unless you're going to go with, say, something like our Enthusiast or professional builds, which we'll get to.
This $500 range, later. I would wait.
Yeah, wait on the low end.
Yeah, save up some more money, so maybe you can get the $800 build or something.
Right. All the sales are pretty much gone right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, let's move on to. There's a picture of your CPU that I forgot to show.
That's the AMD chip there.
All right, Dan, why don't you take the sweet spot?
I will do the 800. So the $800 build, if you've followed our build guides for a while, this really is called the sweet spot for a reason, because over the years, since we started doing these, this build has kind of become if you're going to buy something right now and you have the money for it, this is like a good one to do, because it's going to handle everything you can throw at it that's out there right now. It's got more than enough power, especially, we have a gaming focused audience, obviously, here on Twitch. This will eat most things alive pretty easily. So, of course, we have the i5, the dependable, probably the best bang for buck gaming overall CPU out there. The i5 4690K, excuse me, quad-core processor. It is a monster for the money for sure. And if you have, as we always say, if you have a micro center near you, these become even more enticing. We don't use those prices in these guides because not everybody has that, but you can get it's $230 online, but you can get it for well under $200 at micro center. So, nice. But we got the Asus Z97E motherboard. $100 motherboard. Asus, very dependable, good brand. 8 gigs of RAM. Thank God RAM has become a manageable thing again for
Yeah.
$44. It used to be like, God, oh, it was so bad for a while there. Western Digital Caviar Blue 1 terabyte hard drive here. Pretty standard for this build. We haven't yet been able to force an SSD in an 800, but I think that's coming soon. I think that's coming soon.
It'll come soon enough.
And of course, the beast, the pound for pound champion, the Floyd Mayweather, except this video card does not hit women. The GTX 970. It is a beast. We have a PNY version in here, 4 gigabyte version. $300 for a 970. I mean,
It's not
That's a
bad.
I
good
can
deal.
attest that it is a monster. Also, I have to acknowledge real quick, we have a sub train going on currently in chat.
Nice.
So thank you to all you guys who've just subbed. Support means a lot. It means we keep doing these shows. So yeah, the 970 though, a monster. I was running Witcher on Ultra with 1. I have 2 now, but I was running it on Ultra with 1. So
2, you say?
yeah,
Not to interrupt, but so the $800 build also is intended to be modular from the standpoint that you can add on to this thing as your budget increases, right? Or as you save money. So that Z97E, we always try to make this board an SLI capable board. Now the power supply, you're going to have to change out. I don't think you're going to run SLI 970s and a 4690K overclocked on a 500 watt power supply.
I wouldn't do that.
So you'd want to switch out your power supply. And also at the $800 build, we're still like targeting as much performance as we can. So a couple things like aesthetically might not work out, and you'll want to tailor your build to your own needs there. Like for example, the case, it's a $23 case. You might want to save another $25 and get something a little bit more substantial, which we'll get to later. We're going to start the next couple builds. We'll be actually focusing a little bit on aesthetics, and I hope you guys are actually hyped
yeah,
about
this is going to be pretty sick coming up. So to finish out this build, yeah, like you said, Thermaltake VL8000 case, ATX mid tower, pretty standard case. Like Bob said, and I would actually agree, don't eat lunch for like a couple days and get get a $50 case if you can afford it. We stick to hard price points for a reason, but there's little things here and there for sure that you can definitely upgrade for cheap. And of course, the ever dependable Corsair 500 watt builder power supply. Corsair power supplies, can't say enough. I will promote them till I'm out of breath.
Oops.
So
Well, I skipped ahead, so.
Yeah.
Is there anything we wanted to cover on that before
Well,
we...
so K9 said in chat, use cardboard, and actually, I've run a machine in cardboard or bare on a desk, and that's totally viable if you want to save up for a better case. So
It's like a test rack, except without the rack.
yeah, exactly.
And then, quick question in chat for an i5 and SLI 970s, 850 watt okay? Yeah, I'd say so.
I'd say
That's what I'm
plenty.
running. I'm running with an i7 and an older, more power hungry version. It's fine.
Yep.
So.
You can always put your parts into PC Part Picker, and it'll give you an estimate on power too, which is very handy.
It doesn't give you full load, but it's never. I mean, most of the time
It gives you a ballpark, so.
It's pretty close, yeah. And I would just make sure that you're getting a high quality power supply. And when I say that, it's like make sure that you're like 80 plus gold or better. That's what I'd say, at least.
If it's giving you an estimate of 648, don't settle for 650. You might want to bump it up.
Yeah,
exactly.
But if you have like 100, 150 within, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
But anyway. Solid build though.
All right.
All right, let's switch over to the one that I already spoiled. You can fire me later.
It's too late now.
On. The Enthusiast build, $1,300. This is the CPU that I have in my machine that I didn't overclock for a while, and everyone gives me crap about it, but whatever.
This is commonly also referred to as when Brandon and I used to do the guides for a long time. Before we did this on a show, we always referred to the 1300 as the thing I would build right now.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like that price point was like
accurate.
there you go. So
Yeah. So this guy starts off Intel Core i7 4790K, 4 gigahertz. However, if you have a decent cooler like we do here, which we have a Cooler Master, what is that? Sadon? I've never heard of this before.
Yep, it's a 240 rad
240,
all-in-one
whatever.
cooler.
It's
Yep.
all in one. I mean, I was running with the Thermaltake Water 3.0, running at 4.5, no problem. So I'm sure this one would probably be able to handle
It's
the
a
same.
damn good price too on
Yeah, and
that
it's
thing.
65 bucks. That's not bad. If you're gonna spend a little bit more, spend it on that. The water coolers are nice. They're quiet. I got an MSI Z97S SLI. I don't. Do we have a picture of this? by the way?
Great.
Crates,
We
yeah, it's
do.
right below it.
It's
Yeah,
the next
Hold
slide.
on, hold on.
oh, it's
Yes.
so sexy, this
That's
motherboard.
And look at that
pretty.
thing. That's amazing.
Mm.
All right. Keep
So
it on your
pretty.
pants, nerds. All right. We have a Samsung Evo. We have a solid state drive finally popping in. 850, 250 gigs, which is probably more than enough for your OS in like 2 games now. Keep in mind what games you're playing when you're planning for how much solid state drive space you need, and if you want them to even be on your games or just on your OS. There's a whole. I'm pretty sure we've talked about that on past
Mm-hmm.
broadcasts of the hardware show, so you can probably go rewatch that. But if you want something to go fast, you put on your solid state drive. If it's something like music where read speed isn't really necessary, even like video, if you're watching videos, you don't need to put on your solid state drive. So just keep that in mind. But for all your other stuff, we have the Seagate Barracuda 1 terabyte drive, under 50 bucks. Can't go wrong for that amount of storage. And then we have my favorite card. Actually, that's not true because there's a better one, so it's complete garbage. MSI GeForce GTX 980, 4 gigs of RAM. I have a 980 in mine. It's not an MSI, but I'm able to run basically everything on this at 1080p. I'm sure 1440p would be no problem. 4K, I can run stuff on high and usually get 40-ish to 50.
Still.
So that's pretty nice for that resolution. Depends on the game, obviously. Then we have the NZXT S340 white mid-tower case. It's a beautiful case.
Very nice case.
I don't know what
Yeah.
else to say about it. I've never used it.
It's super compact and it has no optical drives. So like that whole stack where you'd normally have all your
CD.
3.5 inch, yeah, you wouldn't have your 3.5 inch drives or anything like that along that whole side. So it just like cuts off the front of the case. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then kind of a surprise for this build. Usually we have more power for the power supply, but we got
Yeah.
the same one I think as the previous 2 builds, right?
So the estimate here is like 380 watts. I'd probably bump that power supply up a little bit, but as you can see, I'm 42 cents over, and I can tell you that that power supply is going to be able to handle everything in that case.
Yeah, we'll handle everything on this build fine.
Would I buy something bigger? Yeah, I would. And personally, I would save up a couple bucks and get something else.
Yeah.
That's hard price points. So
Yeah. That's not a bad build. Not bad at all. I mean, you got a 4790K, a 980 solid state drive. I mean, the only weak point really is the power supply, and that's a solid one, and it's only weak if you eventually want an SLI,
Right.
like
And,
980s
or if you start overclocking heavily and you're messing with voltage and everything, and it's, you know, I mean, it can become problematic. So maybe I regret that one a little bit, but again, I'm 42 cents over. So
So, but I mean, you can always take this power supply and start a new build and upgrade your power supply, and then that adds on to the justification train. Then you end up with 10 computers.
clearly your stream PC that you don't
Yeah,
have
see?
that needs a power supply, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right, now we need 3 computers. In
I know
house.
that feel. Yeah, see, Bozzy in chat. I don't know how to stop spending money. Hey, man, welcome.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
when you figure it
Yeah.
out, you let us know. All right. Yeah.
All right.
Solid build there. Bob,
Cool,
you
cool,
can wrap us up with the professional.
All right. So the professional, we always have some fun with. You guys might be surprised we didn't select anything Skylake based yet. Rationale for that is that while Skylake is, you know, tempting and everything, I would still stick with the 5820K, the 6-core, rather than switching to the i7 6700K. And then in the lower price builds, DDR4 still carries a premium.
Yeah, it's really expensive still.
Not only that, but doing like DDR4, which could be quad channel in dual channel, I don't particularly care for. So we went with the 5820K. It is cooled by an NZXT Kraken X61. This is actually just mostly because I had the money to spend here, and I wanted
Splurged a little
to.
bit.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to match up with the case. So the case here was the NZXT H440, which is the big brother to the S340. Has some of the same features like the PSU shroud and all that. It's a really, really nice case. So there is also the Gigabyte GA X99 UD3. It's very similar to the board that I run personally. I've got the UD4. What the difference is, I couldn't tell you right at this particular moment. Honestly, I don't remember. But I think Capsar runs that one, and he's pretty happy with it. Got G-Skill Ripjaws 4 series. This is actually the same RAM I have. Excuse me. At $130. Yep.
I like G-Skill.
Yep. Got a Samsung 850 EVO M.2 drive, which we haven't. I mean, we had that last month too. They are much faster than SATA 6 gigabit per second drives. They take up a whole lot less space. Actually, I wish I could rip mine out and show you. It's
They're pretty tiny.
yeah. I don't have anything that's close to that size right in front of me, so I can't show you. But they're really small. They take up just a little slot on the board, and then you don't have to worry about having a drive bay occupied. And then there's a Seagate Barracuda 2 terabyte drive for $70 or so. An MSI GTX 980 Ti for $630 at Amazon. That's actually a really good deal on a 980 Ti. I think Mark's I think you're in checkout.
All right, I'll buy it right now. Let's go.
You're checking out right now?
Yeah, right on the cast.
Yeah.
Not quite. I gotta wait until my house sells, and I'm gonna be like, oh no, I accidentally threw money at Newegg. Oh my god.
Yeah. And the aforementioned NZXT H440 White. It's a really pretty case.
Is that the one we're reviewing soon?
No, so the one that we're reviewing soon is actually the Noctis 450. It's like they took the Phantom series and mated it with the H440. So like all the cool design.
All I know is it looks ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
the best way.
It's nice. Right now, I have everything disassembled. Otherwise, I'd pull it over here and show it to you. But that review is coming up soon. And then this is a Corsair RM 650. I've got the 850 watt version of this one. It's a really good power supply. It doesn't turn on until it hits a certain load percentage. I want to say it's like 30% load or something like that. I could be off.
Yeah.
Might have to check that. But the fan actually doesn't even spin if it's not at a certain load threshold. So.
That's a nice feature.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're streaming. Of course, it's going to be spinning when you're streaming. But I don't know. Maybe if you're vlogging or something.
Whatever you kids do these days.
Yeah. So
whatever. This has a 980 Ti in it. I want it.
Yep. Let's buy 4 of these.
Yeah.
For our LAN.
We need it, guys.
Stations. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So.
Anyways.
That was the end of the document. But I don't know if you had any topics, but I have a couple on mine that we could chat about.
Well, I figured we'd just chat about Skylake a little bit. If you guys wanted to, and what it means.
How about
I want to add one quick thing before we
go ahead.
Talking about solid state drives and all that. How fast were we transferring data when we were trying to move GTA from your computer?
So we were going over a gigabit LAN, right? Mm-hmm. So gigabit LAN, SSD to SSD, and we were actually pushing. I think it was about 130 megabytes per second. So, what does that work out to? Hold on. Where's my calc?
Fast.
Stat.
That's like actually pretty much saturating a gigabit link. Yeah, I think that pretty much did.
Yeah, so. My solid states were in RAID, which is plenty fast for.
And you were going to you were pulling from my M.2 drive.
Yeah, so it was pretty nuts.
We were limited by our network connection, and that's it.
That doesn't happen often.
No.
So I want to talk about, before we get into Skylake, because I see this constantly during the podcast, during streams right now, and it's been since before Windows 10 hit, since we've had a build guide. So Windows 10, I have people constantly asking me, should I upgrade? Should I stay? What's the you guys having any problems with it? Any negatives? I myself, personally, have had 0 problems except for the initial known NVIDIA driver bug that hit everybody at launch, which is now fixed. But I mean, I think it's good.
Can you really
Yeah.
count day one for an OS release to like hold a grudge against it if they fix it
Oh
the
yeah,
next day? That seems a little crazy to me.
Well, I think most of the concerns about Win 10 actually are about the privacy settings. People are kind of freaked out about that a little bit. One of the settings that I particularly don't care for is called Wi-Fi Sense. And that's the one that shares your Wi-Fi passwords with your friends, so to speak. Personally, I'd rather, you know,
turn
and
that off.
yeah, I'd rather punch in my password for you. That's just me personally. Um, and what else? One thing, you lose Windows Media Center. So if anybody uses Windows Media Center, I mean, you're probably in the minority.
Yeah.
So if you had it, it's gone. It's one thing to be aware of. So you'd have to switch to something like Plex or Kodi, which I love personally. Kodi and MB are my two go-tos for that.
Yeah,
If
the
you're looking
sad
for,
thing is there's only like 1,000 other alternatives to use, so
yeah.
good luck.
Well, no, I mean, it does get problematic if you're using a cable card. Like, you still have to keep a Windows 7 Ultimate or Pro or 181 with Media Center PC around, which I have.
Yeah.
But other than that, Win 10 solid. It's good. Real good.
I haven't had any issues with it. Seems
I
like
will
faster.
I just remembered, Brandon and I both have that fucking Windows snap. Oh my god, the worst. The corners hang when you try to move from screen to screen.
Yeah, I have run
Happens
into
to me
that.
all the time. And I get hung up on the side of the screen and I can't drag my window. I have to actually move my mouse to the other screen and then drag the window fully over.
Oh, mine's not doing that. I'm actually
Yeah,
doing it
mine
right
does
now.
that. I don't know what setting. Apparently, Brandon has looked into this and found that there used to be a registry setting for this in Win 8, but it's not in Win 10 anymore. So he's trying to figure out how to fix it. But other than that, I would say wholeheartedly upgrade. Even if you stream and stuff, go ahead. It is faster. It's a smaller install actually overall. If you do it fresh. Yeah, I don't see any problems with it.
Oh, you know what? Actually, XSplit Broadcaster, I hadn't updated. I don't know how far back I hadn't updated. I hadn't run it recently, but I just launched it right before we started streaming, and it said that it required Windows 7 or later. So then I had to go to the XSplit website and grab the latest broadcaster. But other than that, that's the only application that I've run into. I think Rocket League, pre-patch, you had to run it as an administrator, and you might run into a couple of things like that. But overall, it's very good.
Yep. So there you go. Windows 10. We recommend it.
Oh, you know
If
what?
you're upgrading from 7 or 8 to Windows 10, it's like flawless. Like
Yeah.
It didn't take that long at all, and it was just like done. Everything worked. I'm like, what?
Right. And the Microsoft Edge browser actually is surprisingly good.
Yep. Still got that that cancerous E.
I know. They should have left it as Spartan, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
We got
Microsoft.
Good question in chat, real quick for you guys. The BYD fan, longtime KBMOD fan, for someone who has never built a computer before, is it hard using the build guides?
No, I don't think so. I think we try to make this as accessible as we can. Now, as far as if you've never assembled or seen someone assemble a PC before, there are plenty of really good resources out there.
Yeah.
Paul from Paul's Hardware is the one that I would always recommend as a first stop. He does a great job of making it as simple as it can be, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of like assembling things like I wouldn't say Legos. It's more like
it's much simpler every time they come out with new iterations, though.
Yeah.
It's much simpler to do.
Much easier than it used to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to plug something into the wrong place. I'd say the hardest thing that I always had trouble with, like the motherboard header for like the power switches and all that. That's just really that's annoying as hell. Sometimes you might get lucky and get a motherboard that has like the block that you plug into first outside of the case, and then you can plug into the motherboard.
I have one of that ever, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if that should be the only part that you really get hung up on, is that. And the good thing about that is if you plug it in wrong, it doesn't really do much. So you might accidentally turn your computer on with the reset button instead of vice versa or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're not, but it's not going to blow up.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, one thing I do want to say too, I saw it's Bozzy had mentioned that it, mainly what you should get according to your budget. Again, these are really loose guides, and I say that because we have a super strict budget, and you're not going to have that. You're going to have $5 more. This is really mainly something for you to think about, like, oh man, that's what I can get for $800.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can get that for 805.
Yeah.
You always got to look at what's better. We pick the core components to be the best they can be, at least in that price category.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like we said, the case we'll skimp on a little bit. Sometimes some power supply we skip. I wouldn't say skimp, but we save a little bit of money on.
And if
your
you have
mileage may
questions
vary.
or whatever, just post it in the KBMOD forums, tweet at us, go to
Yeah.
PC Part Picker, make a build, send it to us, and we'll look at it because we're
Yep.
nerds, and we'll be like, "Ooh, that's hardware." And
Yeah,
then
like-
we'll look at it and be like, "Oh, maybe you get this if you have an extra $20. We're more than happy to help you spend money you don't have."
Right.
Yeah, like the forums, generally, I will check the forums, and then if there's like hardware questions, specifically threads like that, where should I get this, should I get that, or I'm having a problem with this, I will tweet those out on the KBMOD account and my own account, and there's, 6,000 followers or whatever that'll see that. So you usually get some answers. We will take a look at it. So, use the resources on kbmod.com and on Twitter with all of us. So we are there. Skylake, my bad. I derailed that completely.
No, it was good.
That's good conversation. Skylake, I don't feel like it's worthwhile right now based on the prices for the chips themselves. They're really
Aren't
aren't
they really
sales.
pricey right now?
They're not really pricey, but
I thought they were more than the normal
they
ones
are.
for some reason.
no, they're just basically like at retail for every launch. So where is it?
I'm not jumping to upgrade, which kind of says a lot.
So one thing is Inintech, which is my sort of, if you want to look at raw, sort of even obsessive testing on something, Inintech, when a new CPU comes out or something, they run everything they can throw at the thing. Stuff that I don't even understand in some of the benchmarks. But their conclusions are generally put in plain English for you. And basically, what they said is, finally, Sandy Bridge is sort of something you can put to the side. Like, if you're still on a 2500K or 2600K, you may want to consider Skylake at this point, because finally you have a meaningful jump, although I would argue that Haswell also is a very meaningful jump. But, like, if you've been holding out, this is probably a good thing for you to get. I would wait a little bit till some of the motherboard prices and stuff come down, but finally, the core architecture, and Bob can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, has kind of been more incremental than it has been big leaps. It was a big leap, and then it's kind of built little bricks on top of itself of performance. So we've held on to things. We held on to the 2500K for years in that 800 build. So it's hard to recommend things at launch these days.
So here's where I'm at with the 6700K, for example. It is $359. Okay, so it's $359. The 5820K is $378, and in both circumstances, you're talking DDR4. So you're already spending more than DDR3. Your difference is 2 physical cores and 4 more four more logical threads with the 5820K. For 20 some bucks.
Yeah.
$19. So, and you may or may not be able to find a Z170 board a little bit less than the X99 boards, but the X99 boards are going to have more features overall, I would say. So, for that kind of money, I would definitely jump into X99.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I actually have one PC on Ivy Bridge, and I have one PC on Haswell, and once I read about this, I was just like, nah, I'll pass for now.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I've got a 2600K. I had a 3570K, so not a 3770K, but I turned off hyperthreading on the 2600K and put those two against each other, all other things being equal. And there really wasn't a meaningful jump there. Then when you start getting into Haswell, you're still looking at about like 5 to 10% or so on average. Like the 2600K really still holds its own very, very well. So
It's a solid chip.
one thing that we rarely ever talk about is getting a secondhand chip from eBay or something to save some money. You know, second-hand chip, second-hand motherboard. It's actually totally viable as long as you feel like your source is reliable
Trusted
enough.
seller. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're buying from somebody who has an upgrade problem, like Nikon or me, you're probably getting a piece of equipment that was taken care of. If
That
not
was actually
run
part of the
a lot,
reason
you know.
why I never overclocked, because I knew I would want to upgrade sooner versus later. So
Yeah.
it's a bigger selling point. Hey, I never overclocked it. It's in good condition.
Right. Right. And I mean, the cool thing about Sandy Bridge 2 was you could overclock the absolute crap out of it. I see K9 talking about 2500K and, for 4.6 gigahertz. I had a 2500K running at 5 gigahertz on air. This is on a Hyper 212. And then I switched to a 2600K running at 4.8 on a Hyper 212. So you can't really get those clocks out of the new chips, so to speak. I mean, the 6700K, I think people are saying that they're getting around 4.5 out of, and that's kind of the top end for like Ivy Bridge and Haswell too. Like the 3770K and the 4790K, both of them, you're right around that. Sorry for the crying baby.
No, it's all right.
I'll mute myself.
I got doges. It's fine.
I got a lot of sadness and aloneness. I'm
but
all alone. Someone hug me.
yeah, so I just actually threw the Anantech review in there if anyone's interested in boring themselves to sleep tonight.
Antec has been solid for a long time too. When I first started building computers, I would go on there and I would read all their reviews and stuff, and that's how I learned. So if you're interested in this stuff, they're a great resource.
Yeah, they, like I said, they go way above and beyond what a lot of sources will, like to an obsessive degree. To points where I'm like, I really do not even care about these pages of the review. I will skip them.
Yep.
Like, these are not relevant to my interests.
There's been many times where I just skip to the last page and I'm like, all right, give me the too long didn't read
Yeah,
version.
give me that.
Is it good or not? All right, it's good. All right, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
So recently I started reading PC Perspective as well.
Okay.
So you guys got to check them out. I think it's just pcper.com.
I think, yeah.
Check, yeah.
I used to think it was PCP or...
Yeah, pcper.com, and then Ryan Shrout on Twitter.
Yeah.
Really good resource, smart dude. They do some good stuff. They had actually found a lot of the issues, like with multi-GPU.
Mm-hmm.
They had kind of changed the way that they had reviewed them from a frame rating standpoint. You can go and read how they do GPU benchmarks, and it'll blow your mind. They're really smart dudes. So check them out if you get the opportunity. What else?
I think that's all we had.
So
on the
Skylake,
docket.
wait on Skylake. That's my opinion.
Wait.
The only thing that gets really intriguing with Skylake versus like an i7-5820K, for example, we talked about DX12. Not sure everybody knows about one of the cool features of DX12 that is multi-GPU. And it's not going to matter whether you have two identical GPUs or whether you're going to leverage the integrated graphics. If a game is optimized properly, they'll be able to kind of split the workload across all the GPUs, right? So if you can use the integrated graphics to do something, you can get some bonus out of it, where like 5820K doesn't have integrated graphics at all.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute myself.
I think we're about at the end anyway here, I think.
Yeah, if anyone has any quick questions, let us know. Otherwise, I think that's kind of all we had for
So,
tonight anyway. So,
quick question from BYD fan again. Should I get more informed about terms like the random numbers and letters, because that's like a foreign language to me? Not fully necessary if you're just building the machine. Those price points basically reflect the kind of performance you're going to get. If you're going to spend around 500, you're going to get good enough performance to game, but it's it's going to be on the lower end. And you go up to 1300, you're going to be putting things on ultra. And gaming, and even looking at 1440p monitors and things like that. So I mean, yeah, you don't need to know every set of instructions the processor runs or anything like that. But yeah, know your budget. Ask us. Ask people you trust with this kind of thing, and
Also
we'll help you out, man.
Yeah, make sure you know what you want too. Don't just say I want a new computer, because all right, I can spend 10 grand right now, and I can get you a new computer. If you know you're going to be gaming on a 1080p monitor, because that's all you can afford, or you know it's going to be 60 FPS, but you eventually want to do 144 or something like that. If you want to do the Oculus when it comes out Q1 next year, you need to know all that kind of stuff, so that way when you give us a build, we can say, yes, it'll work. You can give us a build and we'll say it'll work, but we don't know, oh, you wanted to play at 1440p? No, then this won't work.
Yeah,
you need to upgrade this.
That's actually on that note, and kind of before we start running even longer, that you guys have stressed this before, I know, on previous editions of this show. The resolution and frame rate you're looking to game at really, truly rules the roost as far as gaming, what you want to build. Like, if, as Nikon was saying, if you know that you want to play CSGO or Battlefield or whatever at 144 hertz on a 144 hertz monitor, like, you need to know the horsepower required for that. So $500 bill is not going to get you there. It's just not. So, yeah, that's all I have to say, really. So know what you want to be using. Know what your sort of performance you're going for. I think that's most important these days. All things being cool. So, all right.
Yeah.
That about it? I think we're good for the month of August. We'll have these on the site within the next couple days, along with the video up on YouTube. So, yeah. Make sure you follow us. You can follow Bob at bpost34 on Twitter. You can follow Nikon at Nikon Punch. Follow me at NipNopsTV. And you can follow KBMOD at KBMOD Gaming. You can tweet us questions on there too. A few of us monitor the Twitter pretty much all the time. So, and also KBMOD.com and on the forums. Truly, we will answer your questions on the forums. People make fun of them for being dead or whatever all the time, but hardware questions and stuff, we will always take a look. So,
and if we miss it, put it in the forums and then tweet at us.
Yeah, tweet at us. All that good stuff. So yeah,
we want to help. So
thanks for watching.
Cool. Thanks for coming out.
See you next month.
Later.